Good evening, everyone. This is Michael DeAngelis, and I'm the Senior Digital Resources Manager at Career Services at the University of Pennsylvania. And I'm here today with my friend and colleague, Associate Director Natty Leach. Good evening, Natty.
Good evening, Michael. How you doing?
I'm good. It's good to see you.
You as well.
I spend during a normal workday about a third of my day sitting in the chair in Natty's office, just thinking about life, spitballing ideas. And one of those ideas that we often talk about was doing a live stream. And so we had done one on Instagram last year as part of the CS Radio podcast. But we thought we would take this opportunity while we're stuck at home to reach out to the community and see what is on your mind. So, for everybody watching, if you have a question that you'd like to ask Natty, you can put it in the chat and we will get to it as quickly as we can. And in the meantime, I think I'll just get things started with some preliminary questions. And Natty, I'm just wondering, you speak with students in the college, undergrads. So what are some of the things that you're hearing in the appointments that you're taking right now?
There's a lot. There's tons of actually interviews going on right now. So I've had a lot of mock interviews lately, both for behavioral, just kind of general about themselves and their skills questions, as well as case interviews. In addition to that, lots of questions about how does my search change now with the quarantine that's going on and how COVID-19 might affect the job search. So we've been talking about that as well as internships too. Those are kind of the bigger themes that I've seen recently.
So you're doing a lot of mock interviews. I imagine that those interviews are all going to be taking place remotely, sort of like we're doing right now. So do you have specific tips about doing a remote interview?
Yeah, definitely. There's lots of stuff that still stays the same. You don't want to forget all of your basics of still connecting with someone, even though you may not be able to physically touch them. Well, you probably wouldn't do that too much anyway. Maybe just the handshake. But beyond that, you're still maintaining eye contact where you can. Obviously, that changes to right now. I'm looking directly at my webcam to try to illustrate that. So maintaining eye contact through your webcam is great. Setting the stage is also kind of important too. I don't have a lot behind me right now. One thing that is not a great example that is in my background is there's a window directly behind me. I even have the blinds closed as far as they go, and you can see kind of how bright that still looks back there. And you can see my camera kind of adjust.
Well, I'm sitting in a literal sunroom, so I also don't pass that test. Natty, I'll let you know we did have a comment that your volume is a little low, so you could speak up or get closer to the mic.
I can turn that up. I turned my microphone volume up a little bit. Hopefully that helps.
So we have a couple questions coming in, which is great. Barbara asks, what's the best way to find remote interviews?
So there's a few things. Handshake is still a great home base for your job and internship search. We're still seeing, when I looked in there today, there was about 19,000 things posted currently. And there's still lots of stuff being posted. So that's a great place to start. Handshake doesn't have a default remote filter right now. It's something that we've been in touch with them actually about, and they're working on it currently. But there's not a drop down that you can select. So what a lot of employers are doing is putting it either in the title of their work or making it within the job description. So I would just recommend doing a keyword search of remote in Handshake. That'll bring up pretty good results. Actually, I can switch over and show you what that
That'd be
can
great.
look like. So in this job section, you can type in remote, and I did this earlier and a bunch of stuff came up. So copywriter, editor, writer, assessment, remote teaching position. So a lot of employers are doing that. Some you'll occasionally see it within the location. So right here it says remote in parentheses, Charleston, Illinois. So this is a good way to do it. We also have additional resources though on our website. Our coordinator for the college team made a really great remote guide that has additional things outside of Handshake that you can search for that are a little bit more specific to remote work. I think the easiest way to find it is if you type in remote guide. Oh, I doubled an M. Remote guide into our search bar on our website. It's the first thing that comes up, guide to remote work. And if you click to view that resource, There's lots of stuff in here that kind of tailors the search experience right now to what's going on with COVID-19, as well as just giving some useful different resources that you can use. So same thing with LinkedIn using remote as a keyword. Other tools will sometimes have advanced filters, and we've noted that where possible, whether that's in Career Shift, another thing that we have available on our website, or other places, Flex Jobs, Idealist. There's some specific ones like remote.co too. But this is a great list of resources that you can continue to look for some more remote specific stuff in here.
And are we seeing both full-time and internships continuing to be posted in Handshake?
Yeah, absolutely. We're seeing both of them. There's still a lot of those in there. Obviously, it depends by employer. So there are lots of uncertainties right now for how employers are going to be changing things moving forward. Some of them are either holding off on saying a lot, or they're scaling back, or they're keeping things just normal like they have been, or changing it to be remote work. So a lot of it is employer specific, but broadly, there's still lots of stuff being posted all over the place. For specific employers, you might want to look at a more tailored search that would look directly at their website or their career page to see if they've made any notes there.
Great. We've got another question. What if I have a summer offer, but I haven't heard from my employer in a while, and I'm not sure if that means it's going to be remote or even still happening?
I Staying in touch is still a great idea. I mean, even if the basics of, hey, it's been a while since we talked, hope you're staying well and healthy. I think still tailoring a little bit of your message to be understanding of this being a difficult time for people, and having a light touch with that. But reaching out can still be a great idea, asking them how things are going, if things are still planning to go as planned. I mean, the core thing is still making sure that you're maintaining your excitement for the role and letting sure the employer sees that and how you're communicating, as well as continuing to thank them. So if you're still being appreciative about the offer and excited about the role, nothing wrong with reaching out to ask about a status update or about if things are changing it or if they know anything right now.
So let's talk about a sort of a bad scenario where either my internship or my full-time offer was canceled because of the pandemic. How can I handle that on my resume? Is it something I still can note? After all, I did get an offer
Yeah,
that I
absolutely.
accepted.
Absolutely. And preference would be that you should be including it on your resume so that other employers know that, oh, I had this in place and I was accepted to this. There's some nuance there where many employers know this ahead of time, that they'll be saying to you that they would recommend that you do that, and they're kind of giving their blessing. If it's not known, I would still run it by your what would have been your employer or the organization that you would have been interning at, and still let them know. Say, you could say something like, oh, really sorry to hear that. Would love if we stay in touch about future opportunities as they become available. I was just wondering if it'd be okay for me to designate it on my resume, that I was accepted this, but will not be completing it, kind of thing. Um, and many employers would then be okay with that. You don't want to necessarily put that out there publicly to other employers as you're handing your resume out if the employer hasn't given the okay, though.
Right.
The other big point too is if something like that is happening to you, we are happy to help throughout the process. We are still open and having appointments virtually. So feel free to sign up to meet with us so that we can talk about next steps for tailoring your search.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second. We do have some other questions coming in, but let's talk just for a brief minute about all the ways that career services is operating, even though we're not currently on campus. So you did mention already we are taking appointments,
Yeah,
and of
big
course
one.
we're yeah, go for it.
The big one is appointments. We're still doing those just as many, if not more, than what we were previously doing for scheduled appointments. All of those, you have the option if you'd like to do it by phone or by video conference. We're mostly using Blue Jeans for that. So that's still just like you did before, scheduled through Handshake in the appointment section. We're also doing drop-ins. I mean, what we're previously called walk-ins, but since you won't be walking in, we're making it more of a drop-in format, where those will only be by phone, but you can still request those day of. So many of us are opening those up on that specific day, early in the morning by 9:15 a.m. So if you wanted to sign up later for a 2 p.m. phone drop-in for just a 15-minute chat, you're welcome to do that, and we can call you at that time to talk about any questions you have. Obviously, we're also doing tons of virtual webinars and stuff like
Yeah.
that right now, just like this. We had a recent event with the former chairman of Walt Disney, who spoke to our students. He's also a former college alum as well. So lots of great stuff that we're doing. Any social media stuff that you wanted to highlight, Michael, that you've been doing?
Well, definitely keep an eye on both our Twitter and our Instagram. That's where we've been the most active. Both of those handles are at Penn Career Serve. That's SERV. We're doing a lot of different things. We're going to start taking some asynchronous questions over on Instagram. So students are going to be able to submit their questions on a certain topic in the comment section under an Instagram post, and then someone from our office will go on Instagram stories later on and answer them. So that's something that we're going to start doing at the end of this week. I'm looking forward to that. And we're also looking to do some alumni engagement, both on Instagram and on Twitter. So just keep your eye on that. We're continuing to post every day. We also continued with our podcast, CS Radio. We managed to do a season finale for that just got posted today. So you can find that on the Career Services website. And of course, a sort of a big part of our social presence is our blog. And that's continuing to get updated regularly as well, both from our staff as well as several partners that we have, like DeAngelis, who are able to submit blogs to our website that are really helpful. A lot of people are writing some really smart things about the job search right now. So let's take a couple of questions from the audience, because we've got a couple that have rolled in. What if someone is worried that they're just not going to be able to find an internship this summer, whether that's just because their plans got upended or they're at home or they're not, personal reasons, whatever the situation is, they weren't able to do an internship this summer. How do you think employers are going to view that moving forward?
So to start, now is a challenging time for everyone for many reasons, not just for the job or internship search, but even beyond that. And employers especially will understand that too, as they might be changing their hiring practices or how they're doing things as well. We've spoken to a lot of employers, and many of which who have said that they'd be understanding given the circumstances now, if students don't have as full, big, giant structured internship program in person. Obviously, a lot of those in person things are moving remotely anyway, so they're understanding of that. At the end of the day, the other thing I would recommend is if you feel like, oh man, there's nothing that I'm getting that's more of a structured thing, I would think of what other things you can add that would help you stay productive over the summer. So if you're in an interview setting down the road and someone says, oh, I know that the summer of 2020 was rough because of COVID-19, what did you do to stay busy? You could still have something to answer that might be productive. And that could be in the form of online. There are a lot of virtual classes and things that you could take to build up a skill set. LinkedIn Learning is actually available to all Penn students. There's lots of resources and things to do there. It could be changing your internship search slightly, that you find something that might be more of a remote part-time type of internship that you could do. We're seeing lots of stuff. I did a report in Handshake recently that did a breakdown of the types of roles. We're seeing lots of marketing, PR, sales, graphic design, software positions, or engineering positions, and even writers and social media stuff. So there's a
Yes.
pretty big array, and that's a good start of types of things that are more commonly done remotely anyway. That could be a good way to get something that might be smaller that will still stay productive, even if it's something you only do part time over the summer.
And I'll say I've seen some surprising employers adapt to remote work, even in ways that I wouldn't have thought necessarily possible. For example, I'm in charge of our fine and performing arts community on the website. And so I was in there last week approving jobs, which had dried up a little bit. Early on, there were still quite a few coming in. But last week, a theater company, I don't remember which one, it was in the South, I believe, but they posted two virtual internships. One was, just as you say, a social and multimedia intern. So someone that could help them create video content remotely and deliver it to their audiences and be in charge of their social media feed. And the other one, which I found super fascinating, was their leadership development program that they were going to continue on remotely, so that you would be in all the meetings. I'm sure that, like a lot of performing arts organizations, they're trying to figure out how they're going to survive. How long is it going to take them before they can reopen? Are people going to be willing to come to the theater um, in a time where we're still trying to be socially distant? So I thought that was just a really great and unique opportunity, and I thought it was really great that they were allowing someone to or several people to continue that virtually. So definitely keep an eye on Handshake and on the job boards. Make sure that if you're a Penn student or alum, that you've subscribed to, well, you are all getting emails from us every week, but make sure that you've set your preferences on our website so that you're subscribed to the specific communities that you want to know about. So if you want to learn about virtual internships and in the performing arts, those are going to start coming to you. Or in finance or real estate or engineering or sports and hospitality, we have almost 30 different communities. So there's definitely lots of granular information out there to get to.
And lots of those job functions that I kind of mentioned just now, the marketing, advertising, PR, sales, graphic design, writers, those kind of go beyond industry. So you'll see those in a lot of
Absolutely.
different places, not just in something like performing arts or entertainment. But you could obviously see a marketing role in something totally different. It could be for fashion, it could be a graphic design role for an agriculture company. Um,
Absolutely, and even a financial institution needs marketing and PR and graphic design.
yep.
Those are tools in any organization.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, we've got another question. How do I network effectively during the pandemic?
That's a great question, and that's another topic that I've been talking about a lot with students. Honestly, right now is a great time to network because lots of people kind of want to have more human interaction. So I can see that being a good opportunity to have a video chat or have a phone call with maybe a Penn alum who works at a company of interest and talk to them about their experiences. I think the key thing that makes it a little bit different now as opposed to before is you obviously want to tailor your language a little bit. Both what I was talking about before of having a light touch and making sure that you're understanding and not being tone deaf to this being a tough situation. And obviously not then requesting that you meet in person in some sort of way. But still going through some resource like QuakerNet or LinkedIn to identify an alum and then reach out to them by email just saying, really interested in what the type of things that you do. I'm also a Penn student right now studying these types of things. Would love to chat and learn more about your career or how your time at Penn helped inform your career. Stuff like that can be a good intro.
Yeah, and I would say too, it would be a great opportunity to learn, what they're doing in their job during the
Yeah.
pandemic. How has your specific job changed? How has your industry changed? I think that's great information to have as then you continue to go on interviews and do your job search to kind of have an inside look at what's happening right now in different industries.
Yeah, it's a great point. And the other thing is making sure that you're not front loading. A lot of times people think, oh, I'm reaching out so that this person can find me an internship or find me a job.
Yeah,
Um, if you say that just right up front, hey, do you have any things that I can apply to? Depends on the audience. The person who's receiving that might not know anything about the HR process or the hiring process, so that they'll be way
exactly.
more likely to just ignore that or not respond. Whereas it's really engaging and better for you anyway because you're going to gain lots of useful information from someone who could then start to tell you about their experience. And then at the end of that conversation, it's easier because you build a rapport with them to ask about, hey, do you have any tips for the job search process? Or even just thanking them and saying, really love talking with you. Would appreciate if there's anything you think of that might be a good fit for me at your organization. Would love if you could let me know in the future.
Yeah, this is something that we talk about all the time when we discuss networking, but we do hear from students from time to time that they feel like networking is gross or icky. And I think that's because they think of that as sort of asking for something. But what it really is just relationship building and it's information gathering. So in that sense, you are asking for information, but you should not approach this as I'm going to network with the former head of the Walt Disney Company because I'm going to ask him for a job at the end of this. No, that's not what we're doing here. We're getting information about his perspective on the industry and his career path. We're not. It's not a give me something. It's an informational network. All right, we've got another question coming in. I think it's from a Mylene. Mylene, just kidding, Milan. It's if I'm not finding anything on Handshake, are there other job search tools that I could use to find remote opportunities?
Yeah, definitely. So that remote guide that I brought up earlier has a lot of them. Let me go back to it. So there's lots of ones listed here. One in particular that I think is very good. So I mean, you could browse any of these for different things and different ways to find stuff. One thing that is particularly good and is actually something that we pay for Penn students to have access to is Career Shift. It's a great resource. If you go to our website and the learn how to make connections and network section, this kind of goes into what we were just talking about too. There's lots of stuff in here related to even sample questions that you could ask in an informational interview where you're talking to someone learning about what they do in this guide here. But there's also a little bit about what Career Shift is and how to use it. It's a great contact database primarily for finding ways to reach out to people, but it also has remote filters and things like that in their internship and job board too. So this is a great resource as well.
I want to jump on this topic because I spoke with a student at the end of last week who their summer plans had been canceled because of the situation. And so they were looking for another opportunity, preferably remotely. And they came across an organization that had an application process. Um, and basically, in the end, it was a placement organization. And so they were going to guarantee someone a remote internship for a fee. I advised her to really look at this very carefully because I was put off by the fact that there was an application process. So it made it seem like you were applying for a specific job. But then once you got through that part, they asked you for money. I think you have to, if it's one thing to say, hey, we have a service, it's this amount of money and we'll place you. But to do an application process first and then kind of sneak that in there was a red flag to me. But there are different organizations cropping up that are sometimes for a fee guaranteeing you a remote internship opportunity. And I would say that if that's something you're interested in, you should really look into the opportunity, look into the organization that's offering it, speak with us if you have questions, and then really weigh for yourself, is it worth me putting out this money to have this experience? Do I feel like that is so important that I'm willing to pay for it? And we've already talked about some of the ways that you might be able to fill the time and fill your resume without having an official internship this summer. So really do think about it and be sure to reach out to us if that's something you're considering.
Yeah, and one of the biggest red flags is when we see those things and they kind of bury the price tag of things.
Yeah.
So that's where I would have extreme caution. But certainly, if someone is putting that there's a fee associated with it, but they have really developed resources, and to you feel that that fee is something reasonable for what they're willing to offer, then you could consider it. Obviously, though, like Michael said, all the things we're talking about, there are other options there too. So it's certainly not a necessity to do something like that.
All right, Natty. So you mentioned Career Shift. What other sort of hidden gems of the Career Services website would you point people to during this particular time period?
Oh man, I mean, I don't have. Let's pull up the website so I can think through things. Certainly, like I mentioned, because now is such a good time for networking, this quick guide to informational interviewing is excellent. There's a sample way in which that you can write a request to connect with someone in here, how to ask for an informational interview, all the way through best practices things to think through, and then at the very end here are sample questions for you that you can ask them. I think this is really awesome. Just from the planning perspective and getting on top of doing some more networking and making that process a little bit easier and less intimidating. There's lots of stuff in our learn how to section that goes more in depth into lots of topics. Certainly in this prepare application materials, there's lots of stuff in here for resumes if you're working on that right now. There are two things in here that I think are most useful to people as go-tos. Obviously, you can read through here and get as much information as you like, but if you kind of want the quick and easy version, there's this anatomy of a resume guide in here that you can look at. This is just a great sample of a resume and kind of shows you can use it as a template for yourself. The other one that I think people don't see a lot is at the very bottom of this page is an action verb guide. which is super helpful, especially to me for writing resumes. I'm not
Yeah.
great. Some other people in our office are really good at just finding the best wording for things and how to best phrase a description for what they did. Whereas this is really great if you can think already, you know what, the job I'm applying to really values communication and people skills. Let me browse through these different verbs that I can start a description with that might be specific to showcasing that skill, and then kind of align it to something that you did related to that. And there's lots of different content areas like management, research, technical skills. There's lots of different ways that you can look at that, the different types of skills. So I think this is kind of a hidden gem on our website.
So
Um,
something has just been added, or at least made more relevant, is some of the videos on our site.
yeah.
And I know if you go to the how-to section on interviewing, you can now find more easily our case interviewing workshop. And I know that is a particularly popular subject with undergrads who are always looking for that extra edge in a case interview.
Yeah, definitely. Also, the other thing that I think a lot of people don't look at is this outcome section. And there's lots of great data and reports that we build every year to help showcase what people were doing over the summer or
What do you
what
mean
people
nobody
are doing
looks at
after
that? I
graduation.
live in that section.
You live in that. I have before too, but we need to get out of our own spirit. Think what the people want, what the people need. Anything else that you can think of that I didn't highlight there? I mean, there's lots on there, but
Yeah, there's lots. I think something that's a really great a resource to have right now is, again, in the interviewing world, it's Interview Stream, because that's a place that you can practice having a remote interview. So you're able to go in, it'll give you some practice questions, and you're going to record into your webcam, and you can get a practice session in. So it's designed for in-person and remote interviews, but obviously right now, it's a great way to get used to speaking in front of the camera, seeing what you look like on camera. I definitely think about something that's something that people should be using. And as Barb points out in our comments, people should be taking full advantage of our website and the communities. So, right on the Career Services website, we have some career communities built in. Natty, maybe you want to bring up our homepage
yeah,
and
yeah, I
show
have it
that.
up. So there's lots of different career communities here, but there's also identity and affinity ones. So if you are an athlete and that's really part of who you are, there's lots of resources about athletes or whatever kind of grouping here. But these industry ones in particular, we have lots of tagged resources that might be specific to that
Yeah,
field.
exactly. The way our website works now, which is just fantastic, is that we can tag all of our content across communities. So every time we write a blog post, that's, again, let's use the athletes community as an example. So if there's a blog post that applies to athletes, it's going to automatically feed onto that athletes page. If there's a job specifically targeted at athletes, it's going to feed onto that athletes page. If we have resources just for athletes, it goes there. If there's videos, it all goes there. So these are amazing one-stop resources for industry or your affinity group that you can really delve into. And again, I'll stress that you can then subscribe to those communities through our weekly emails. So as we add things, as we add jobs, as we add resources, they're going to come and be highlighted in your inbox every week.
Yeah, I think those is a great starting point. So if you're thinking, you know what, I might be interested in journalism, go to the media journalism entertainment section and kind of see what resources are there, so you can just poke around, either learn more about that field or start to see some tailored job boards that might be specific to journalism or specific to a specialized field.
And one other thing I'll point out, just because it's been a frequently asked question in our general career services email inbox, which is how do I go about making an appointment? If you're on the career services homepage, again, that's careerservices.upenn.edu, there is a big appointments box, and you can click right on that, and it takes you into Handshake. You can also go directly into Handshake, upenn.joinhandshake.com, and /appointments will take you right to the appointment module. So that's how we're doing it. It's really easy. Like Natty said, we're doing same day walk-ins, drop-ins by phone, and those get added by 9:15 every morning. So you could find a slot anytime during the day. And we're putting in our regular schedule of appointments. So people are doing half-hour appointments by webcam or by phone, and you're booking those about a week out, right, Natty?
Yeah. So I mean, sometimes we add extras, but most of the availability is within the 2 week window. We'll occasionally have a few things open for extra spacers a little bit longer than that. But yeah, typically week to week, we open the most appointments up.
All right. Well, we've got one more question here, and I think it'll be our last question of the night, which is I have absolutely no idea what industries or jobs I might be interested in. Are there any resources on the website that could help me learn about options that might appeal to me and explore those options?
Yeah, and again, now could be an excellent time for part of the emphasizing the search part of your job search. It's just learning more about yourself, learning more about what interests you and what types of things are out there. And we do have different resources that you could look at that would be more broad and try to help you figure that out. There's a whole section on our website. If you go to this exploration section, there's the explore careers and interest part. In here in particular, I think my favorite tool among these is Career Explorer. There's lots of little quizzes and tests that you can take to learn more about yourself, and it gives you both suggestions of here are some fields that kind of meet what you're thinking about now, and goes even deeper into saying, oh, here's what that job outlook looks like, here's what salary ranges are for that, here's what geographic region is really prevalent for that type of field. It has lots of detailed information about that. The only warning I give people about this is you just don't need to be prescriptive in any sort of way. And Career Explorer is good that you can kind of along the way say, actually, no, I don't want to work in the restaurant industry, or no, I don't want to do this. But don't ever think about it as being this is what I need to do, and more of just here are some examples. I often use the example with myself when I used to take tools like Career Explorer when I was a undergrad. I would always get music therapist as the number one job that I would be great at or that I would be interested in. And a lot of it's not obviously not I'm not a music therapist now, but I think it helps to think about why is it recommending that. So for me, I thought, okay, music therapist. There's both a creative element to that with music as well as a helping others element. So I think even my role right now kind of fits in with that, where I have creative sides where I get to do cool presentations like this with Michael or help manage Handshake and things like that. More of a jobs and project side, but then there's also the helping side where I get to talk with students one-on-one and help them with their future plans. So thinking more about why it's showing you something rather than just immediately dismissing something is also helpful with a tool like Career Explorer.
Definitely. And those are things that you can discuss with us too after you get your results.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I think that is the end of the questions. I think we've answered everything that has come in, and we've been chatting for about half an hour. So, Natty, I want to say thanks for doing this. It was great. I hope that we're going to be doing more things like this in the future, even after we're all back together in Sweet 20.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. This was fun. I hope to do more.
And thanks everybody for tuning in. This is going to be recorded. So if you missed any of it, you can tune back in. It should show up on our YouTube page shortly. Thanks everyone. Have a great night. Stay safe. Take care.
Take care.